Now, I don't exactly know fully all the philosophical reasons why humans can know reality as it is. But I do know this. I do know two things. Number one, it's because God created us that way and created the world that way. And number two, to reject the idea that man cannot know reality as it is involves contradiction. For instance, Kant's statement, man can know reality as it appears to us, but not reality as it is. We could just ask him, well, is that a statement about reality or not? If it's not a statement about reality, well, then who cares? You just uttered something without meaning. But if it is a statement about reality, then apparently Kant knows that we can know something about reality. And so his whole system is based on a faulty foundation, a contradiction. And so this confidence that man could, that there is absolute truth, and man really could find out truth about the universe in which we live, that was pre-modernism. And then, now the problem is, kind of like we are today, ancient man was like, you're in love, as when the Christian worldview, when Christianity was preached and the gospel began to be spread, we were so in love with God, and then we realized, well, then my thinking does make sense, and the universe does have order, okay? And so we fell in love not only with God, the gift giver, but also with the gift, human reason. But eventually we fell so in love with the gift, human reason, that we forgot about the gift giver, God. And so we had this big love fest with reason, and there comes René Descartes. He was a Roman Catholic thinker, and he decided, you know what? I want to prove that Christianity is true, his version of Christianity. I want to prove that it's true through reason alone. Now, this is at the time when this guy's, he's founding some of the principles of geometry, and you had the axioms of geometry, things that had to be true. They were logically certain truths. To deny them would involve contradiction, and from those axioms we can deduce certain things, other things that had to be true, and we could figure out all kinds of... you couldn't build a building like this without some knowledge of these axioms, okay? You'd build 4 walls, and when you get to the last ones, nothing would connect because everything would be off a little, okay? So these guys were doing some brilliant stuff in geometry, but, do you have to prove the food that you're about to eat is absolutely 100%, free of poison before you eat it? If you waited for us to rationally prove that, you would never eat. You would suspend judgment on it and you would eventually die. So most of the decisions we make in life, okay, especially involving the physical world, we don't have 100% rational certainty, okay? But we know a lot of the things we know beyond reasonable doubt. We know things, we're so confident that we know certain things that only a fool would reject it. At the same time, we don't have this 100% certainty. And it's not God's fault. It's not truth's fault. It's who we are. Number one, we're fallen. So we could always be mistaken. It's always possible to add 1 + 1 and come up with 3. Because you're fallen and you just make mistakes. But number two, even before we fell, we were still limited in knowledge. Only God is unlimited. So there are limitations to human reason. And Descartes was acting like there wasn't. And so he tried to prove everything through reason alone. He was not a skeptic. He was a Roman Catholic. Okay? He was not a skeptic, but he said, I'm going to use skepticism as a method. I'm going to try to doubt everything, suspend judgment on everything until I find something that I cannot doubt. And that which I find that I cannot doubt will be a point of absolute certainty upon which I will deduce everything else. So I'm going to find all truth and solve all problems through human reason alone once I find that point of logical necessity, that point of absolute certainty. And so he started doubting. He looked at the world of senses and he started doubting. The senses might deceive me. And he began to doubt this and doubt that and doubt that. But the more he doubted, okay, the more he became aware of the existence of the doubter. And since doubting is a form of thinking, okay, he said, I think, therefore I am. And that was his point that he thought was absolute certainty, and from that he would deduce everything else. So I think, therefore I am. This was basically the birth of modernism, at least from a philosophical perspective. There are some of the forerunners of modernism in the scientific field as well. I mean, because in the scientific field, once you started finding out, oh, an earthquake's not when God gets mad and, you know, and just shakes things up, and lightning isn't God ticked off at us throwing lightning bolts at us and thunder, and we're now finding naturalistic explanations for it through human reason, doing science, studying the physical world. And so many of these scientists started thinking, you know, given enough time through human reason, we can find a natural cause for everything. Well, that implies that there is no such thing as a supernatural cause. But guess what? If there is no such thing as a supernatural cause, then we lose the basis, the foundation for modern science. We lose the basis for thinking that our reason really works and really does find truth. Whatever the case, this led to modernism, which is the attempt to find all truth with certainty through unaided human reason. Now, let me say, I think Christians ought to be very rational people. At the same time, we need to submit our reason to the Lord. And we need to acknowledge that without the Lord, we would not even have reason. Okay? C.S. Lewis argued, if you don't have reason with a capital R, i.e. God, then there's no basis for reason with a small r, human reason. So I think we need a humble reason, recognizing we're limited and we're fallen, and recognizing that the basis, if reason works, is because it was given to us by the infinite mind, God Himself. So I think we need to use our reason with humility. Pascal threw that reason out the window and thought he was going to provide an airtight case for Christianity. A contemporary of his, Blaise Pascal, I don't know, Blaise Pascal was so brilliant, the guy died at age 39. And there's like things we're using in this room, some of the technology we're using in this room, you know, would not have happened without his brilliance. You know, things like the calculator, the computer, and things of that sort. I mean, the guy was not a gambling man, but he was the one who wrote the laws of probability. He's the greatest expert on what a good wager is, and he says that the wise man will always wager on God. There's only two kinds of people that are wise, okay? Those who serve God with all their hearts because they know Him, and those who seek God with all their hearts because they don't know Him. It's foolish, just based on the possibility that God exists, it's foolish to not look for Him. Because if you wager your life on God, if you seek for God with all your heart, and Pascal believed you seek for God with all your heart, you will find Him, okay? But if you wager your life on God and you win everything. Eternal gain, infinite gain. But if you lose nothing, okay?